Hello guys, and today we are doing a new chess video and we are doing something different than our other videos. We are doing a game review. So just a quick thing about game review, it's a feature in chess.com. It allows you to analyze your game, see where you did go wrong, where did you go good, what was your best move, what was your opponent's best moves, and how the game went from your side to his side and so on. So we usually do the e4 opening, but today we are doing a new opening, the d4 opening. So as you can see here, this is the d4 opening. Our opponent responds with d5. We offer the queen's gambit, which is the opponent takes our pawn, which moved to c4 because it's not defended, and this is called accepting the queen's gambit. So he actually does this, and we then take control of the center by moving our pawn to e4, controlling these four squares here. Our opponent responds by trying to compete for the center by moving his pawn to e6. We respond by taking his pawn, capturing his pawn, and developing our knight in the same time. He then does a mistake of moving his queen away from the center, losing control over it. We develop our knight, which is a best move, and we have now a move from our opponent, moving his pawn to c5. And what we do here is gaining tempo over his queen, threatening it, and we don't worry about capturing our pawn because it's defended with two pieces instead of one. And our opponent moves his queen into the f5 square, which is, as the engine described as an accurate move because it's not a safe position for his queen, can be attacked again. So we just take his pawn, which is not a good move, and let's us explain why. Okay, so this was our first inaccurate move, and this was bad because we allowed him to develop his bishop to this square when we captures. Instead, we should have been able to develop our knight, and we shouldn't have worried about our pawn here because it was defended by the queen and with the knight. And if he captured with his pawn, we should have been able to capture with our knight, and in the same time we would have gained tempo over his queen. So that's why it was a pretty bad move from our side. So let's continue and see what he does. Yeah, of course he captured with the black square bishop and he developed it. So now we both have two bishops, our bishops developed, and I have my knight developed, and he have his queen. So moving on, I move my bishop here, threatening one. Sorry, not like this. Let's so use a proper lines here. So I attack the d8 square with my queen and my bishop. If I move the queen here, it would be checkmate. But of course, my opponent responds to this by moving his bishop. Why, you may ask? It's inaccurate. It is a defensive move. He prevented me from ending the game because he simply wasted a move. He should haven't have been. He shouldn't have moved the bishop. He would have simply moved the knight. He would have developed the knight and in the same time defended. That's why the engine is saying it's an accurate move. He had a better option than just wasting a move on the bishop. He should have been able to develop the knight while defending his king from being checkmated. So that's why it's an accurate move. So moving on, I castled, protecting my king, moving it away from the center into the safe position of castle. He does a mistake of allowing me to move on my pieces to gain checkmate on him. So that's a mistake in the eyes of the engine, of course. I do a check with my bishop here. He responds by moving his bishop in front of his king, defending it. I simply offer a trade of pieces. The engine says this is an accurate move and I have better options, but let's continue with our game. He captures my bishop with his knight instead of his queen. That's a good move, of course. Capturing with your king is not the best move. He actually couldn't capture with his king because it was protected with the queen. And of course, now I just cannot take the knight because I would lose my queen to his king and it would not be a good trade. So, moving on, I keep trading his pieces because I feel like I have a better position, and in the same time I damage his structure in this trade. He now has double pawns, so yeah, I did a winning trade in a manner. I then do a mistake here. Actually, I didn't notice. Sorry, the bishop attacking my knight into this position, and I was just wanting to threaten his queen to make it move, and getting tempo on it, wasting his moves. But uh, for my luck, I was defending this square with my queen, so it didn't go so bad. It was an equivalent trade. So now the game got very interesting. We are approaching the end of the middle game and we are going into the end game. So he took a pawn with his knight and I moved my rook here and then he blunders heavily. See how this bar escalated in for my side, but yeah, I didn't actually notice that he left his rook undefended and I didn't capitalize on his blunder, and that's why we that when I didn't capture the bar return to equivalency, but he blunders again. But then again, I miss again. But I did a check here, so I attack his king and I'm defending my queen with the rook. So what he does here is he moves his king away from my check. So I threaten his rook, and I actually do not. Now we have a trade. He can capture my rook while I can't capture his rook. So, and that is exactly what happens. He captured my rook and I capture his. He does a mistake and does not cover his rook. And I actually, for some reason, I couldn't notice that easy capture and I didn't do it. And that was a mistake. And I think even the engine, for some reason, does not see it as a mistake. But of course, it's a mistake. Would have been very simple to take the rook and then go back to safety, or even if he tried to block my pass with the queen, I would have traded. It would have been a very easy rook. So yeah, this was bad from my side, but I took a free pawn and I now checking his king. So he moved his king to safety, covering his from all sides except this, of course. So now he is completely safe. So what I try to do is going into this square here. So this was actually a great move from my side because now I am overloading him with attacks. If he moves his king away, I can capture the more important rook. And if he does not and move this pawn here, defending his king, I would simply capture his knight. So let's see how this goes. I move my knight, which is the best move available. So that's very good. We got the best move. He had a better option, which actually I don't know exactly what it was, but probably, yeah, probably it would have been trading the queens because trading the queens is better than losing material. He would have forced me to trade, or actually, yeah, you see, if if I chose, so if he moved his queen here, I would have two options, either to trade or to move away. If I moved away, he would actually simply capture my rook. So yeah, that would have been pretty good for him. It was either a trade or winning a rook. So yeah, this didn't happen, and he moved his pawn here. So I simply captured his knight. He then moved his rook here, and for some reason, I thought, why take any chances? I am above him in pieces. I have a better structure, so why not simply force him into a queen trade? Uh, oh, so as you can see here, that's terrible, and I don't know how he didn't say it. If he captured my queen, that's why you see here my evaluation went to nothing, because if he captured my queen with his queen, I wouldn't have been able to recapture because he is attacking this pawn, so this pawn wouldn't have been able to move because it's covering the king, so it would have been an illegal move. So actually, this is pretty amazing. I was able to avoid this somehow because of his mistake, of course, not because of mine. I was an idiot. So we are both down a queen, and I have an extra knight. And what I decide to do is to force him into the end game of pawns. I believe I am a very good at this pawn game, so I forcing a trade here. I'm ending his materials at all. So I am taking his pawn, and I'm forcing him to trade uh, the rook. Somehow, by simply taking him, it's taking his pawn with my knight. So you may ask why he just may leave it and move his king out, and he does not need. There is no check. There is nothing. But actually, there is of course many scenarios. But if I do this or check his king while I am attacking his rook, I would simply take it for free. So what he does here is he simply captured it with his rook, I recapture with my own rook, and he captured with his king. And we move to the pawn battle. So I couldn't. There is an interesting rule here. So if you draw a diagonal to the end of the board and the king is in it, the king can capture the pawn before reaching the end of the board. So this pawn was doomed. The king would have been able to catch it. So what I focused on was uh, moving my three pawns here, so I let him capture this pawn while moving my pawns here. So let's see how this goes. So I always like to you have not keep your pawns close to your king, and you have to be very careful because you need to defend all your three pawns because this is your only advantage. And you can see here how the bubble pawn came to bite him, which you remember from trading the bishop with the knight, with that caused him to give us a double pawn advantage. So in the end, now he's trying to save his pawns by moving his king into the structure here, and I am moving my pawns too, protecting all of them. So I here moved my pawn. So if he captured, I would be able to capture with my own king, and I would continue pushing forward, uh, controlling all these squares. So let's see how it goes. He moved his king, so I simply captured, controlling this square here. So his king cannot move. So this square is controlled now by me. So he had many options. He could have moved here, but of course this square is controlled by my pawn here. And if he went here, I wouldn't have been able to go there. But let's see how it goes. He goes back. So I go here, and this was the best move, of course. And then he moved his pawn forward, and then I move my king into it, and he moves his pawn, which, as you can see, this was a mistake, and it evaluates my advantage way higher than his. And then I simply do a great move here by moving my knight, sorry, my king to this position, and it was only move that works. Good for me, it is a great move. The engine says so. and then he moves his pawn. And this is where it gets ultimately interesting, because now we both have to think about what other options we have. So now his king controls this square. I cannot go back into this part. So what uh, do I need to go? I captured his pawn simply. And now he has no other option for his king but to go there or here, because now I can controlling the square. So the only option he has is going there or going back. And what he tries to do is going into this square. So I move my king back, and the engine says that this hurts my chances, and he also missed a chance, and now we are equivalent because of this move. The engine says that I did a mistake, but what I thought was now he has no moves except going backward, and I would be able to push forward. So yeah, that's what I thought of. So yeah, he moves backward, and it is backward into a worse position for him. He because the engine suggests that he could have been able to win a pawn. So what I do is move my king to be able to uh, go there. Then yes, and I didn't go there, but eventually because I would have this all these pawns is blocked, so I planned to do a move for my king, because if you can see here, we both have limited options. His pawn cannot move, my pawns here cannot move, so I can only move my pawn, and he can only move his king. And I don't want to sacrifice this pawn, so that's why I moved my king backward, so I can move it back forward if he tries to capture it. And this is actually how it goes. So now for his side, he cannot go there, he cannot go here, he cannot go here. He needs to move backward, which is great for me. I am gaining more possession. So he moves backward, and I simply move my king into here, controlling these two squares and controlling this square with my pawns. And this is where he was doomed. He needed to move backward again. And this is the last time. Yeah, here we go. And he needed to move backward. So if we go back here, we did a check here, so he simply went here. So when he did this, we moved our king, protecting our pawn while protecting these two squares and protecting these two squares, making the king unable to move except backward. Yes, exactly. And then we moved our king. He wasn't able to go and protect his last pawn because we are controlling this square we capture, and now it's a matter of simply moving our pawns forward. He cannot take because we are protecting with our king, and we promote to a queen. He can't do anything about this. We check, and we continue pushing our pawn forward, gaining another queen, adding insult to injury, and ending the game with a check. So we didn't actually do a great game, but it was a new opening. We learned together how to navigate it. We were able to beat him in the pawn game. We did a lot of mistakes in it, but we were able to capitalize on how to move our king. And we traded because we were sure that we had better pawns. So yeah, okay. So thank you for watching this game review. I hope you liked it. And well, again, I will see you in another video.